At the very outset of this fantastic and charismatic gathering, I, Arif Ahmed, on behalf of entire Miles Person fraternity, extend a warm good evening to you all. Respected Jishnu sir, IAS, Principal Secretary to Chief Minister Assam, revered Dr. N. K. Datta sir, founder and principal, Miles Person Residential School, esteemed colleagues, lovely students, ladies and gentlemen, and all other members which are present here. Everyone has aim in life. Some want to become IAS, some want to become doctor, engineer, CA, etc., etc. But the road which leads to our goal, its visibility becomes crystal clear if we meet some role models in the journey of life as milestone. So, keeping this point in mind, we met Pranav A. Shriram, who was mathematics genius a fortnight ago. Today's session has been dedicated to IAS aspirants, and for this, we have invited the best role model in this particular factor, who is none other than Shri Jishnu sir. Hope this session will bring immense learning and information, and also help you to develop skills to crack civil service examinations, and also you will get the opportunity to exchange your views with Jishnu sir. So, I, on behalf of entire Miles Person fraternity, extend a warm welcome to him.
Doctor, different doctor, different for some of us. As I really go back, knowing him, I think from as early as 1980 or 81. So we go back many, many years together. Dear friends, young students, I'm really delighted to be back here after maybe a hiatus of around 20 years, 18 years. I used to participate in your annual functions with unfailing regularity in the 90s. Since then, of course, your school has moved on, the principal has moved on, and all of you are now in a wonderful interior or establishment, great infrastructure. The school is coming up well, and I believe it is now ranked among the first 15 or so, which is a remarkable achievement from what it was many, many years ago, especially in the early 1990s, 92 or 93, when I first saw the school, which was in my neighborhood. It started small, but now it has achieved a very high level of proficiency and could be compared with many other schools in the country of a similar type. Now I'm here, friends, my young friends, that to demystify the IAS. While I talk about the IAS examination, I will also tell you a little bit about the service. Why are so many people keen on joining the service, and what is there in store for you? Examination is one part of the story, but the other part is what lies in store for you should you make it to the service. There is no doubt that if you ever join the government service, that this is the service, this is the best service in every respect. You are always in the upper echelons of the government service, and at a very young age you will get the very important positions of responsibility. For instance, the age of joining the civil service, or IAS for that matter, is around 22. Assuming that you take the examination at 21, you will make it in your first attempt, then you will be 22. So by 24 years of age, you will actually be the subdivisional officer or subdivisional magistrate, controlling destiny of around 5 lakhs of people, which is a very large number. You have to face riots like the ones that we are seeing, or killings that we are seeing, or the riots that we are seeing in Golaghat district in Assam. 4-wheeler rides that you may see in some other parts of the country. You would be coping with floods, and you would have engineers, doctors, much more senior to you, waiting for leadership to be provided by you. From my personal example, let me say that when I became a DC in 1994, I was 32 years of age, and my wife at that point of time was 24 years of age. And at that time, many of my officers, superintendent engineers and executive engineers, had daughters older than my wife. And obviously, my wife was addressed as auntie at that age. So I'm just trying to give you a sense of perspective that if you make it at the right age and you join the IAS, you and your spouse will enjoy that sort of respect and seniority. Not necessarily a good thing, but nevertheless it's there. And you go up, you become deputy commissioner at the age of say 34, 35. Could be even younger if you join at a much younger age. I didn't join at a very young age. I joined at the age of 26. I was a banker before I joined the IAS. So 26 is a okay age to join, but there are people who made it at the age of 23 years also in my own batch. So they will still have another 3 years to go when I retire in 2022, which means they would really reach the apex in Government of India if they opt for Government of India. That is Cabinet Secretary and very senior secretary in the Government of India, Union Home Secretary and the like. Not for me, and not in Delhi definitely. So that is the background I would like to sketch. The IAS is actually a successor service to the Indian Civil Service. Today before coming here, I was just flipping through my old books on the ICS. You will see there on that how India was governed till 1947 by a band of elite service, a band of elite civilians or members of the Indian Civil Service who were so few in number and who really exercised enormous powers in the lives of the people and who were not handicapped by any kind of political interference or shall we say by either political interference or even judicial interference. They enjoy unrestrained power to an extent, restrained only if at all, by the limits of law. Nobody would tell an ICS officer posted, say, as Deputy Commissioner in Old Darang district or Naga Hills in 1920s to say that, well, you don't do this, do that, because he was really the boss in those days. Those, in the whole of India, which included today present-day Pakistan and present-day Bangladesh and the present-day Burma, you had only about, maybe 600 officers? A small elite band of 600 officers controlling the country. That's all. And in a station, in a district, you would have not more than 2 to 3 ICS officers. That's all. And those districts were enormous. They were large. They were huge. Like Gwalpara district. Some of you may be from Gwalpara, for instance, or Kamrup today. Kamrup during British times and even till as late as 1983 included Borpeta, included Nalbari and Guwahati and and also the Kamrup rural. All that was one district. So you have 2 or 3 officers controlling a district. That's all, nothing more. They used to have their own clubs. They used to go for their hunting, pig sticking, and they would read their own books, read Homer, Keats, Horace, and the like. So that's the life they had. And most of them, let me say, especially after 1892, were graduates from Oxford University, primarily from Balliol College. Balliol College in Oxford was a college which used to encourage people to take the Indian civil service. And the main person behind this encouragement was a person called Dr. Benjamin Jowett. Benjamin Jowett, J-U-W-E-T-T, was a Greek classicist. He had translated Plato from Greek language, original Greek language, into English. So Jowett felt that ICS officers are good guardians. Guardians, you understand? Guardians, and they will make, they'll be able to transform the Indian reality. But that is only in India would officers, civilians who have enough wisdom and who have enough knowledge can bring about change. So that's why Oxford University was a cradle of the Indian civil service. Be that as it may, let's not talk about the past, we come to the present times. Let me tell you personally about my own experience. I'm not one who made it to the IAS in my first attempt. I had to struggle through two attempts, three attempts in fact. The third one, the final one, I was able to make it. So I sort of persevered with it. Now I would like you to understand that this examination, this IAS examination, is not impossible to crack. It is difficult. It has got a lot of features that would make you a bit depressed, make you feel unable to cope with the challenges, make you feel. But let me say that it is crackable. You can do it. You can do it. So only thing is required is perseverance. Now when you talk about the features of the service, of this examination, the first thing is its unpredictability. Anyone who takes the IAS examination, which includes examination to various other services, including the IPS, the Foreign Service, Customs Service, Income Tax, Audits and Account Service, the Railway Services, so on and so forth, would tell you that it's a highly unpredictable examination. I did not I did not do badly in my first two attempts, but somehow I didn't make it in the first two attempts. Third attempt, I almost gave up. I thought that this is the end of it. But somehow fortune smiled at me and I made it. And let me say that I was hopeful of getting into some service. It didn't matter which service, because I was desperate to get out of my bank job. I found that this is not a job which I was fit for, nor did the bank deserve. NABARD, for instance, I was working in National Bank for Rural Development. I didn't think that I was equipped to take on the rigors of the bank, of a life in bank. So in Madras, in those days it was known as Madras, way back in 1988 when my results came. Before that I saw on the television that a college mate of mine from St. Stephen's was being interviewed on the TV, and he happened to be one of my contemporaries. He is now my batchman, and he was being interviewed as a doctor of that particular batch. Then I realized that my results were out. The only way to get the results in those days was to go to the Hindu newspaper office in Madras, Chennai now. So at around 10:30, 11, I took the auto rickshaw with a friend. I went to the office. There was this Hindi-speaking. Usually in Chennai or Madras, people do not speak Hindi at all. Even if they know, they don't speak Hindi. So I spoke to that ex-serviceman who was at the gate, and he spoke a bit of Hindi and good bit of English as well. So he said, "I'll get you the results." At 1 o'clock he brought the result. There was a girl who immediately found her name, and he told me, "Your name doesn't seem to be there, but this girl's name is there," and she was some 200 something. I said, "Give me the result papers, let me have a look." So I started looking from the last few names. I went up and suddenly I found my name in the first column. So I was the only one from Assam to get into the IAS proper, and I came 47 in that particular year. And we were only 100. Another friend of ours, a friend and my friend, Oscar Jyoti Monta, he came some 120. He just missed it, and I made it. So it's all luck. So therefore, the examination is highly unpredictable. I did not necessarily do badly in my first 2 attempts, but somehow luck was in my favor, and I ended up being the IAS. Secondly, it's a test of endurance and stamina. Let me say one thing, that if you feel that I just need to go to the examination, study a little casually, 1 or 2 books, and then you will make it. You have to be either very lucky or extremely stupid. And most of the time you have to be a little stupid, because this is an examination which requires a lot of effort and good deal of stamina. My daughter, who is graduated from St. Stephen's this year, is taking the civil service next year. So I have put her on the job to prepare for it, because there's nothing else she can do. She did history honors, and what else can she do? Either she goes into academics, or she joins the civil service. There are only 2 alternatives. And she passed out her 12th in 2011. So I know, I told her a few days ago, I said, you just can't simply sit around and do nothing. You can do social networking with friends. Hi, and all the time I keep hearing hi and hello and with friends. That won't take you very far. So now she's become a bit serious. So it's a test of endurance and stamina. The whole examination is a test of endurance and stamina. I believe, now you are too young, I think. It's not the right time to tell you about the IAS examination, because you still have a few hurdles to cross. You have to finish your 12th, then you have to do your graduation or engineering or whatever, and then you can think of a career. But even then, let me tell you that this examination requires a lot of reading with, but not great depth. You don't have to be a PhD in history to answer your history papers to the satisfaction of your examiners. So all you need is with a lot of information but spread out. Then hard work and perseverance pay. In my case, it did pay, because I didn't make it in 2 attempts. The 3rd attempt I made it. So I struggled to 2 attempts, and then I made it my last attempt, 3rd attempt. So I felt in my case at least the perseverance paid. I kept pegging at it like it for darts. Kept pegging at it, and ultimately clicked. In parental support, my mother was highly supportive. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. My father was in the IAS, and he gave up when he realized that after 2 attempts that things are not going to be easy, and I didn't make it. But my mother was solidly behind. He said, no, must take a 3rd attempt, do it properly. I got into the bank, so I said, let me relax. He said, no, you must do it and do it seriously. So ultimately, it was parental support. My parents, my father, of course, was a little disillusioned, but he was nevertheless supportive. But my mother had always a huge amount of enthusiasm. Then confidence and self-belief. If you think that you cannot make it, for example, it's too much, simply can't, then you have no chance. You have lost the game right in the beginning, even before you started, getting onto the field. So you should have confidence, self-belief, and there's a role of luck. I've already underscored the role of luck, haven't I? I told you about how it doesn't click all the time. Now, let me tell you this, that these are some bare statistics about the civil service examination which began in 2012 and whose results came out in 2013. And products have already been with us here in Assam. There are 5 IAS probationers who have already in. So their examination we found, I did this homework and I find that in that particular year, 2012, 2 years ago, about 550,000 approximately students or candidates took the examination. I applied for prelims, first of all. Out of that, approximately 2,72,000 prepared for preliminary examination, which is an objective type. From that, only 12,795 were qualified to take the main examination, the written examination, which means that the ratio is 1:21. Then from that, around 2,674 qualified for interview. Usually what happens is the total vacancies would be in the region of 1,000, 1,200. They fall 12 to 13 times the number for interview. So 2,674 were called for interview, and finally only 1,088 made it to all kinds of services. And IAS would be the first 150. First 150. That means you have to come among the first 130 out of 271,000 candidates. The ratio of successful candidates to those who have been prelims is 1 is to 250. You have to be 1 is to 1 among 250 candidates to finally make it to a job. So that is the ratio. Odds seem stacked against people who are generally average, but who are bright. They feel they are very confident, well, they have a better chance, but it's stacked against any candidate for that matter. What is the role profile? Now let me say the back profile. Now this will give you some encouragement that 27% of those who made it to IS, Indian Foreign Service, Indian Administrative Service, and Indian Police Service were women. And 83%, and I presume all of you are from urban areas, not even 73% were from urban areas. The age of people joining the IAS has gone up, average age. It's much more than what my batchmates were and what we were generally. In 1988, 25 years back, when your school was just set up. Now, the age seems to be going up. It's now close to 30. The second thing is that average age of a successful male candidate is 20, female is 26. We find that maximum number of people actually made it from UP, and it stands to reason why they should make it such large numbers, because it's the biggest state in India, the most populous, having a population of around 10 crores. So obviously they will get the maximum number of candidates, and people at home going to business, the brightest don't go into business, corporate sector and the like, they will still take the civil service. Like in the cow belt, in the Hindi belt, starting from Rajasthan to Bihar, IAS continues to be a craze in the Mofussil areas. Not necessarily in Lucknow or Jaipur, but in the smaller towns, people still want to join the IAS, become district magistrate, public deputy commissioner, public collector. That is the aim. Then you have none from Gujarat, and let me tell you, Gujarat people don't care two hoots about the IAS. ये कितना पैसा मिलता है? वैसे नहीं मिलता है, थोड़ी है. Business कर रहे हैं वही काम. Then again you find second last trend is that nearly 50% people, that 46% really, are from technical background, doctors and engineers. Arts unfortunately has come down. It's about 20%, and that is a sad thing. Very honestly, let me confide to you that I find students or candidates who have done humanities in many ways better equipped for general administration. I find a lot of these IIT fellows who can make excellent PowerPoint presentations, who make good bar charts and diagrams and write reports, not technical, not the language, but I do find that they're a little short of the ability to write good prose and to understand human behavior. It's my personal feeling. I may be wrong, but generally I find that they don't write too well or too, I don't know, they're just too ambitious. This IIT graduates just too ambitious to get to the, because they've always been winners in life. Crack the IIT, IIS में घुस गए, उसके बाद क्या? What next? You know, we get this particular posting, that particular posting. Then where is the ethics? Can you hanker after X, Y, Z postings? I feel that maybe, my opinion is totally personal, that a broad liberal education, like in the days of the Raj, during colonial period, when you had people who were classicists, with a good classical education in Greek literature, in Latin literature, good knowledge of history, they are generally taken out to be good administrators as well. Now, the pattern of examination. I had to do some research, and not only for you, but also for my doctor. She was very vague about how the pattern is. There are two places. One is the preliminary examination, and other is the main examination. Preliminary examination is held around the month of August. The main examination is held around the month of December. The results, interview results are out by April or so. And by August, by September, the new batch is in position in Missouri, Lal Bahadur Shastri Campus. What are the two papers? Philips, there are just two papers, 200 marks each. One is on general studies, current affairs, geography, general science, Indian history, Indian polity, economics, social, environmental issues. Then second paper is called CSAT, or Civil Service Aptitude Test. You have comprehension in English, where now, because of the pressure being brought to bear on the government by many candidates, particularly from the Hindi belt, this idea of comprehension in English has been dropped. It's not going to be counted at all. Then you have interpersonal skills, reasoning, mental ability, basic numeracy, up to 10th class. All this is 10th class. But it's highly competitive. It doesn't mean that even if you get most of the answers right, you have to finish on time. It's not simply that you get the answers right, but you have to do it fast. So and then it's competitive. Even half a mark here and there will make a difference whether you qualify for the main examination from that huge crowd of 2,71,000 to be in the first 15,000, 16,000 to get qualified for the main examination. Answers here is just objective type. You all need to do is just put the black mark in the small, like when 10th class you have done it. Just have to blacken it, that's the right answer. And questions are multiple choice. You don't have to write anything in prose, it's multiple choice. Negative marking for wrong answers. One third of the total marks allotted or allocated to that group. A question would be deducted if you make a wrong choice. It's better to leave it in case, no point in casing. Each paper shall be a 2-hour duration. Now we come to the main examination is held around December nowadays. One is that qualifying in Indian language could be for people in Assam, could be Assamese. In my case was Hindi, because I had studied outside Assam entirely, and I lived outside Assam all my life except my service life, last 25 years. Then you have English. Again, these two qualifying papers are not counted. They are not counted. You just need to pass. And to pass Hindi, I read in their website, you just need a 30%, and English is 25%. So you shouldn't waste time trying to maximize your marks in these qualifying papers. Should you take the examination? It's just meaningless. All you need is to pass. Then papers to be counted for merit. One is essay. I really not have essay in my time, so I'm not qualified to say anything about it. It's on some topical issue. And this is the whole ICS pattern, and they used to hold examination in Burlington House in London, Hamilton Institute in Allahabad University, in Allahabad, two places in India. Later on, it shifted to some more places. So there, essay used to be very important, because essays sort of, while writing essays, your ability to summarize and to eloquently put across the point is examined, looked at by the examiners. Then general studies, 250 marks, paper 1, and paper 2, and then paper 3 and paper 4. All these papers, one paper is on history, social, history and political science, another paper is, something on science and technology and blah blah and all that. So basically, what used to be just 2 papers a few years ago has now become 4 papers. And there is another paper in these 4 papers of general studies, from paper 2 to paper 5, there is something called ethics and this and that. I have no clue as to what these papers have. Absolutely, I have to look up myself, because I have to guide my own daughter in taking her first crack at the civil service next year. Total marks for the written examination to be counted for merit is 1750, and total marks for personality test is 275, and you are going to be graded from the total marks of 2025. The age limit. Age limit is 21. The moment you cross 21, you are qualified to take the examination. And you might not even pass your BA, but your bid for BA, and that should be enough for you to enable you to take a civil examination. And you should not be more than 32 if you are a general candidate. And nowadays, the number of attempts for general candidate is 6. In our time, it was 3. You can keep taking 6 attempts. You'll be sick and tired of taking attempts if you take 6 attempts. Then upper limit is relaxable for 5 years, which means for SC/ST candidates, it will be 37. And there is unlimited. So from 21, they can keep taking examination up to 37. 16 attempts they can take. For OBC, non-creamy layer, it's very important. And I think hardly any of you would be in the non-creamy layer having come to this school. So for non-creamy layer, that it is 32 plus 3, 35 years from 21 years. You can take about, 13, 14 attempts. Or 9 attempts, sorry. 9 attempts for non-creamy layer. Okay. Right, we talked about general strategy. So since I've been asked to tell you about the general strategy, please remember when you take the examination, maybe 5 years from now, mostly if you are 10, 9, 5, 6 years from now, you have to take the first attempt with complete seriousness, full enthusiasm, and it has to be a very earnest one, very sincere one. It's not should be like that. I'm just taking it this time to have a look at the system. Don't waste your time. Better not. Make a very serious effort, make a very sincere effort, and take the examination. Well, how should you prepare for this examination? For the prelims and the mains, I have always recommended that one must read one standard English newspaper, and to my mind, there is no newspaper better than the Hindu of Chennai, or now you have the Delhi edition coming to Delhi. It's an exceptionally good newspaper. It's got a very good literary review. It's got a very good magazine. It's a wonderful newspaper to read. It doesn't have too many big names who write articles, but it's a wonderful newspaper, very balanced. And one standard news channel, maybe it could be NDTV perhaps, just to give you abreast of the goings on in the country. You need to know what's happening. And disciplined and collaborative. What do I mean by disciplined and collaborative? It doesn't mean that I am studying alone and I don't share my knowledge with my colleagues who are also taking the civil service. This will not help. It should be enlightened self-interest, which should be your motto. Enlightened self-interest is group effort. You can team up with 1 or 2 persons and prepare. Singly, singularly, and alone, it may not help. You may be tucked away in some corner in a remote place, and you may not know what you're doing, so you will not know what's happening. So, collaborative effort is the need of the hour, especially when you take the civil examination. And join standard coaching camp. Don't hesitate. Please join. I have put my daughter in Bajiram. Let me see how it works. Bajiram is supposed to be good. For optional or for GS, whatever. My case, daughter's case is only for GS and CSAT, because we are all humanities, we are pretty bad in maths. So this CSAT needs some assistance from outside. Somebody can help you. Even in the good old days of the civil service during the Raj, colonial period, in England, there used to be crammers center, crammers shops, and there was something called, Gurney, Wren and Gurney. Wren and Gurney used to prepare people for the civil service examination, ICS. So people, instead of going to university, people used to go to Wren and because graduation was not a requirement. So instead of going to the university, they would go straight to Wren and Gurney and prepare for the civil service. So it was done. So the practical tip is that do not hesitate. I'm sure you will not in case you're a serious candidate. And lastly, surely in the general strategy, no alternate to hard work. There is absolutely no. Nobody will tell you. People might make some empty boasts, that I didn't study law and still I'm doing well. And there's some guys who might actually make it and say that I didn't work at all. Don't believe those steps. Now, for the prelims, I would suggest that you need to put in 12 hours a day, which is very difficult to adhere to. I've seen how my daughter studied, just sort of networking. So it's not very easy. People start working towards the end of the phase, and just before the examination they peak. But a determined candidate will start doing these at least a few solid hours. It may not be 12 hours. I've just put you on the higher side, but even a few hours, 3 or 4 hours is good enough, provided it's done properly. Time schedule to be drawn up. You can't do it without any sense of direction. Today I found that this book is near me, I'll start reading this casually. Another book tomorrow, there's another book landed, which is found near my desk, so I start reading it. That will take you nowhere. NCERT, now, you people are doing your NCERT textbook, do them properly. They will help you later on, should you ever take this exam. NCERT is the books are the Bible in any way, because all you need to do is that NCERT has to be supported, supplemented with some more details. That's all. But direction is will be provided by NCERT. And don't hesitate for studying, taking help books also. They are there, Bajiram, etc. They are given help books. For the main examination, immediately, don't wait for the results. I know this is not the right audience to tell all this. None of you will be taking the examination right now. But there are people who wait for the results to come and then they start working. It's too late. Course is enormous. It's very exhaustive. And again, as I said, you are not required to have great depth. You don't need PhD standard answers. All you need is a width. So therefore, vast reading which is unnecessary. You just need to read a few books. That's all. And read them well. A thorough analysis of past questions. Now you can do this for your 12th also. You analyze the last 5-6 years, what are sort of questions that have been coming? So you can always guess, well, this time the focus may be on this. Maybe you will get all the questions. It's possible in many subjects, it's not possible in some other subjects. In some subjects it's possible where the syllabus is limited. They will keep on, reshuffling the questions and subjects. Study at least 12 hours daily for your mains with equal weightage to all papers. Make notes and brief summary of points. This is very useful. It can be useful for your 12th class examination. That you have these small cards, write down the points. Because when you're about to take the main examination, or any examination for that matter, you would find that reading those books all over again will be extremely time consuming. You won't have the time. So these cards can help you flip through all those points. So this was useful to me. I did that only in my last successful attempt. I had these cards and entire syllabus was there in maybe 40, 30 cards. That's it. And I could go through all those short points in those cards. Am I clear? Right. Now, writing practice. Many of us only read. We don't do any writing. And that's why we find when we write, we drop words, we get stuck. You need to have suitable writing practice to do well in examinations. Because, for instance, when a question is asked, you have to answer the question very specifically, not beat about the bush. Read the question, what they are asking. And we have a tendency to display our knowledge and go beyond what is asked in the questions. That needs to be avoided. Time management. I went totally awry with my time management in my first attempt. Third attempt, I was determined to stick to the time. If the question had 5 marks, then I knew what length to write. For 10 marks, not more than 250 words, which is not even a page. If you see that A4 size paper, it doesn't even have that many. You can write more than that in that sized papers, A4 size paper. So time management. If you don't manage your time and be it for civil service or your 12th class examination or graduation exam, you have it. you will be in for a disaster if you can't manage your time. Interview, again, this is it's too premature, extremely premature, and it's unnecessary to tell you all this, but useful to join for interview practice in various classes that held everywhere. Give you some modicum of confidence, prepare on topical issues like current national and international affairs, or knowledge of your own background, your own state. If you are from Manipur, know your Manipur well. If you are from Nagaland, please know your Nagaland. If you are from Assam, know everything about Assam, which is worth knowing. Prepare thoroughly on just a moment. This is the library. It's one of the oldest buildings, and these are some of the. This is the guest house, and this is how IIT looks in winter. And this is writing in Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy. Now let me end by some inspirational quotes. It all has relevance to what I've said. The important thing in life is to have a great aim and possess the aptitude and the perseverance to attain it. Second thing, every noble work is at first possible. The way to do things is to begin. I'll start after 20 days, 2 months later. That doesn't help. If your aim is to get there, start right now. And once you begin, everything will fall into place. Behold a turtle. He makes progress only when he sticks his neck out. That means you should have the ability to take risk. Stick your neck out. Yes, I want to take the civil service examination. Take calculated risk. That is different from being rash. To accomplish great things, we must dream as well as act. Not simply dream, but we must also act. I expect to spend the rest of my life in the future. So I want to be reasonably sure what kind of future it is going to be. That is my reason for planning. Like tomorrow with today. Thank you.
For your invaluable presentation. Hope your words will help Brazilians to crack the IAS exams in the near future, and we will get them IAS officers in the near future. So now, the most exciting moment, that is the exchange of view program. So children, you are asked to ask a few questions to revered Jishnu sir, and your exchange of view program is right now on. So once you ask, first you just tell your name and the class, and then start the question. So we exhibit questions.
Stick your neck out. Don't be like the turtle. If you have some questions inside you, say it. Don't hesitate. If at all it's a risk, it's a calculated risk. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. I'm Shrimantika Sarkar from class 9. What makes you choose IS and Allied Service?
That really makes me go back to my personal background. Somehow I think I know that. I was motivated as a child by my parents to join the civil service. My daughter is not so, for instance, not that motivated. She wants to go abroad, pursue academics, probably have a good time. But somehow I was motivated, and when I used to read a number of books, biographies and autobiographies, even when I was in class 9 and 10. I didn't do particularly well in 10th, I did a little better in 12th. In 10th, I was reading Napoleon novel, biographies of Napoleon. And then about civil service, I started reading about the ICAS. There's so many books over there. I didn't read them when I was in school, but in college at least one or two of them I read. Okay, so it is somehow I was motivated from my childhood, and I wanted to be a deputy commissioner. And my father, for instance, used to tell me that I should go to Assam and work there because he never had an opportunity to work here. And his father, who was a Mozadar, you know, how many of you are from Assam? His father was a Mozadar, and he said that he should become the deputy commissioner of old Sibsagar district in Jorhat. And my father never made it to Sibsagar as DC, but I went as DC Jorhat. So I fulfilled my grandfather's wish. So somehow it was ingrained in my mind. But when I took the civil service, I actually opted for the foreign service. And when the results came out, in those days they allowed you to change the service option after the results came out. So I switched over to IAS because of parental pressure. My father said, now you're getting it to Assam, so why are you thinking of going abroad and joining the foreign service? So I dropped IAS. So it is two things. One is this somehow my upbringing. In our time, because we are small town people, I might have lived in Delhi for some years, especially in my early childhood. But otherwise, Agartala, Shillong, Goa, then Imphal a little bit. My father was posted in Imphal as well. We didn't have that greater vision that to become a great academician. In UA, I didn't have that sort of ability. The second thing, all to join the corporate sector, because in corporate sector in India was very, very small, and India wasn't liberalized. Economy was still controlled, so you didn't have a very flourishing private sector. So there were very few options. So I only opted for the civil service, hoping that I'll have a good life. It's been a reasonably good life. It's okay. I hope that satisfies.
Good evening, sir. Sir, good evening. Myself, Ranjay from class 12. I want to know something about the coaching and books. What books do you do?
Coaching, I mentioned, I don't know who the institute. Nowadays, there was one coaching place called House Studies. But it is not, I believe, as good as it used to be once upon a time. Vajiram, they say, is good. But books, at your level, I think at your stage in life, I think it would be good if you read the newspapers properly, read the editorial, not simply the sports page and scanning the headlines. That won't help you. You need to read the editorials, the side editorial, the main editorial, main essay that comes in the middle. That needs to be read because that will help you in the essay paper and also help you to formulate your answers in general studies. And then if you make it to the interview, it will help you to answer questions properly. So newspapers are a must. Read the Frontline magazine if you have the time and school subscribes to it, read it. So newspaper and magazine I mentioned. Other than that, video NCERT is well. If you know it now, you don't have to reinvent the wheel later. So it's just stick to your NCERTs. Read those things. Later on, while you do finish your graduation, you will know what more books to read. So at this moment of time, or at this time, I think it's too early, too premature to give you guidance on the books to be read, because you don't know what subject you're going to pursue. You don't know whether you're going to engineering, either your humanities or science. Engineering. So engineering. So I have no idea what sort of books are required for civil engineering. In any case, it's too early. You have to do your engineering well, first of all, and then you will know yourself what books to read. I can only give tips on history a little bit, and even though my knowledge may be now dated about civil service and anthropology and sociology, otherwise I have no idea about engineering.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Myself, Pirush Shah from 12 Command. What you will suggest if somebody will be IS or any IAS officer from this school? Which of the sector should this student should look in the society that problem arises? If somebody became IS from there, what you suggest that which of the sector is getting in the society should help to bring the society in good way?
correctly, you are asking me what section or which sections of society you would try to ameliorate or help to go up should you join the IAS or IPS. Now let me say, I don't only Assam context. Now, if you work among, for instance, in tribal areas, in the 6 scheduled areas of Assam, for instance, in the Boroland territory area, or in say Karbi Anglong or Mahasau district, there I think it is of great importance for which I'm afraid I did not myself do it, to learn the local language. First thing is you should pick up the local language if you can, and especially what happens is in 1880s, Edward Gate was an ICS officer who went on to become the Lieutenant Governor of Bihar in 1913, and he was serving in Assam all the time. Similarly, the works on Moran is written by an ICS officer. You have Garos, Alan Playfair, Karbi is again another ICS officer. So why can't we also do something like that? So one is ethnographic work you can do to see how the tribes are changing, what is the transition being brought about. We should have that much of curiosity. While I haven't put anything in writing about these things, I have always taken an interest on the ethnography and the local issues. My contribution in this regard, history and all that, is to put together essays and articles about a district in the form of a souvenir. And that's not a very ordinary souvenir. The souvenirs I got written in Jorhat and Haflong would run into hundreds of pages, with articles written by old residents of the town living abroad as well. We were able to do that. Another thing that I'm doing now, I'm just saying this is the academic work. Now, for instance, before I actually have applied for central deputation, I would be going to Delhi maybe in a month's time, subject to my order coming out from Delhi, is to give a brief report on communal, ethnic and linguistic conflicts in Assam from 1950 to 2013. There is no book in Assam available in the post-independence period which covers this period. I'm shocked that nothing. Government institutional memory is very short. Government has no idea what happened 5 years ago. Forget about things which happened in 1950s. So very earnestly, I and my researchers, they are all officers, have gone down to the bottom. That is, we tried to look up files, we tried to see the whole cabinet minutes, archival sources, and books to put together the story. So it's almost ready. That will only be for internal use, because that's what I did. So that is one area. Academic work, tribals, general stuff you can do. And the second thing you can do is rural areas. What sort of work you can do? There are, I don't mind saying it, and I don't hesitate in saying this, that it is not a trouble-free existence that we lead. Our stints in districts are short, are generally short, because you may not do everything at the bidding of your political masters. But it is good enough, long enough for you to do something objectively, ignoring certain political pressures. One thing we can always do is to visit all the villages in our own area. Many of us don't even visit. They wouldn't go outside the town areas, they would go attend meetings here and there. But if you can just list out, this is the villages we've been to, and this is what I saw, and keep it in report, and that will be an enormous achievement. And you have come in contact with people, and that's how the old civil service, including IAS and the ICS, which scores above us, because they were always mobile. They used to do a lot of touring The winter months were spent touring and living in tents. Daytime they would go and check the fields, see whether the records have been properly kept by them, mondols, patwaris and the like, field staff, revenue staff. Check the records, see the maps, and in the evening they'd sit down for dinner and read their own Homer and Keats. That's the life they led, a very lonely life at death. Very lonely life at death, sitting in the remote village in a tent, surrounded by few people. So villages, I mentioned. Third thing, you can always think of certain innovative ideas. Now many of us are very keen on publicity. We hanker after publicity. After all, you should ask yourself, why am I doing it? Is it to just for publicity, and you know in your heart of hearts that you haven't done enough? I don't care for publicity. I would like to do something to satisfy my own conscience and to go in the field and be remembered by some of these people. And don't think that you will always be remembered. Nobody is so great that throughout their lives that people will be grateful. Never expect this. Your friends will also not remember throughout their lives. It's not like this. So 3 things I said. Rural areas, I said about tribal culture, and I also said about academic growth. I hope that's okay. You're back. You're the one who asked the previous question. No, who asked?
Good evening, sir. Myself, Vinasarika.
I said, by the way, why do you say myself? Say I am. That's better.
I'm Vinasarika of class 9. In your life, are you inspired by anyone?
Are you?
Inspired.
Inspired. Who has been my model and who has been, I don't know, maybe my father to an extent. My father to an extent. He was a very upright officer and very hardworking, much more than I am. I tend to read a lot, that's why I waste my time reading. But he would be very focused on work. And I thought he was a better administrator than I am, because people were very wary of him, very scared of him, very wary of him, very cautious, because he was very unpredictable and yet extremely effective and very generous and very brutal at times. But that's his style. So maybe I was inspired by him and I wanted to be like him, go to the field and be feared and admired by people. I feel that I'm not feared, but maybe a little admired by some of my own fans, that's all. But it's okay. So if you ask me who inspires me, well, my own father as a living example, now he's no more, of course. I'm inspired by people who are there in the ICS. I read so many things that they have done. I'm inspired by people who have served in Assam in those very difficult period. In the 19th century, far away from London or England, and in makeshift houses, without windows, and in thatched houses with the Brahmaputra River encroaching the banks. Then moving on to another place, moving on to the courthouse, and then courthouse was also encroached and taken away. This I'm quoting from an account given by John Butler, who was a young assistant commissioner in 1860s. And he says that one day, traveling after many, his wife always traveled with her. Suddenly, our second child was born on the boat. And remember, Assam in those days, it must have been like the interiors of Arunachal Pradesh today. The whole of Assam must have been like that. Yes, so if you ask me, my father and those the high achievers in the Indian civil service of yore.
My name is Nahi Masrin. I read in class 9, and my question is that what is required to be an IS apart from study? How I can achieve it if I am determined?
Apart from studies? Apart from studies, you need to my mind, you need to stay focused. Have it in your as an aim that's the goal I want to accomplish. That's the goal that I want to reach. If you stay focused and you have that in your mind that this IAS is what I want to be, or the Indian Foreign Service is what I want to join, that's good enough. By the way, Indian Foreign Service is an excellent life. I sometimes regret that I didn't stay on there because it's a very comfortable life. And I'm fond of traveling, as your esteemed principal had said. That I like traveling. I've been I've traveled the world over, and I've also traveled extensively in India. I enjoy traveling, and I enjoy knowing a little bit of history and the romance of the country that I visit. I visited places like, Malaysia, in the interiors of Malaysia, to a place called Sarawak, to Kuching, and where, of all things, I delivered a talk on the IAS, being invited by the Sarawak Civil Service Association. They got my name from some place when I went and gave a talk on the ICS, on the Indian Civil Service. So Sarawak is a place that evokes the romance of the rubber plantation and the kind of stories, short stories written by Somerset Maugham. I don't know whether you have read or have, Somerset Maugham. So that kind of life I missed out, of traveling and living in those parts, in Kuala Lumpur, Ulaanbaatar, or in South America. That's gone. And my life is now Guwahati and Delhi, and back to Delhi. Now another 8 years to go and 9 years to go, and I go to Delhi and come back. That's it. Yeah. I hope stay focused. Then you will make it.
Good evening, sir. I'm Patricia from class 9. How do you prepare for current affairs?
For current affairs, actually I answered the question. Current affairs, you have to read the newspaper. And I said, you need to read Hindu. I only very strongly recommend Hindu newspaper, which I think is unbiased, it is objective, it's got very good quality prose. It is an old-fashioned newspaper, so read the Hindu newspaper and watch NDTV. I showed that in my presentation. NDTV or CNN IBM, maybe something like that, or BBC for international affairs. BBC is exceptionally good. CNN is good for documentaries. Say you want to know a little bit about the Cold War days from 1950, 48 to 1989, Cold War years. Fantastic documentaries are shown on CNN International. But BBC is exceptionally good for international affairs and for feature stories and documentaries. Among Indian channels, I really can't stand any of them, but yeah, NDTV is okay. NDTV, one channel, newspaper. Read the newspaper regularly and read the newspaper carefully. It shouldn't be just flipping through headlines. That's all. Okay?
Good evening, sir. I am Tabunuki from class 12A. So my question is that, sir, suppose I did prelims and mains examinations very good. Sir, what I did do the interview next year, sir. It's my interview very badly. As I was confident in speaking to the interviewers for taking me. So, sir, will it remember my rank or, sir, will I be not be selected to crack the IELTS exam, sir? I did my prelims and mains badly. Interview I think will be very good, sir, because I am poor in communication skills.
Like in the mains he did well, but did not do well in the suppose he is taking exam, who has done well in mains, he is good at the subject part, but in the personalities he does not fare well. So will it affect? It's solid in his written part.
Yeah, no, if your Indian marks are good, that will be enough, because weightage for interview is now really gone down. It's 275 out of 220. Work out the percentage, very, very less. So it's about what, 12, 13% or something like that. So its weightage has gone down. But he needs to go through some practice sessions through in some institute to give him some confidence. It's very difficult to improve your language at that stage. And many of us may be pretty ordinary while expressing, but one may be very good in writing. But that's where you are. And some people are good at speaking and very bad at writing. So it cuts both ways. You know, you may be good in writing, but very ordinary in speaking, and maybe very substandard in writing, and then good in speaking. So there's no great advantage. But if you do your written well, if he does your written, his written well, there is no reason why he should not make it. I know some people, engineering graduates, getting abysmally low marks in the interview, but still making it. If that person had got slightly high marks in the interview, he would have come the first 3 positions. But even that low marks interview did not stop him from getting his diagnosis.
Good evening, sir. I'm Ben from 12 Arts. I just wanted to ask that during the interview, where will it be like the interview, on what basis will be the question be asked?
Let me go back to my own interview, my own interview experience. I had put foreign service, so they asked me on foreign service on Palestine, and even those days Palestine was a burning issue. So the interview it covers all kinds of things. They try to make you comfortable in the beginning by asking a few very easy questions. They might ask you, where are you from, or what is your name, and what does it mean? In my case, they ask me what does it mean, what my name means. What does jishnu mean? Jishnu means invincible. So I said that, okay, and I found a few of them raising their eyebrows. This is invincible. So, and then they moved on to the subjects: history, philosophy, slightly on anthropology, and my interview lasted half an hour, and I did quite well in the interview. Not exceptionally, but quite well by normal standards. So it will cover your background, as I showed you in the slides. It covers your subject, the papers you take for the civil service, and your own state. Right.
Good evening. My name is Karan Begu, 11 Arts. To be an IELTS, is it compulsory to give 12 hours on studies?
Not compulsory. It can be less. But it should not be, it can be less, but it should not be more than 12 hours. It's madness to do 12 hours. More than 12 hours, right from, 3 years before you actually take the examination. No. But it can be less than 12 hours. I showed you on the higher side, so that you will not blame me if you say you don't make it. Because if you do 12 hours, you're bound to make it. Let's put it this way. If you do your 12 hours a day, I think you're unstoppable. You're invincible. You are a jishnu, in other words.
So can we play?
Huh?
Should we study continuous or we can keep games?
No, it's not. I am just prescribing some medicines. Don't take that. I didn't do it myself. I was like my daughter, I slowly built up, and then before the examination, it could be 15 hours also. But initially, time expands, expands to fill up your work expands to fill up time. I have to spend the day and do everything at a slow pace, at a leisurely pace. You find that everything is nice. The work starts expanding like this. To fill up the time, I have to spend the whole day doing it. So, serious, what I mean to say, sincere, dedicated, serious work needs to be done. but it need not necessarily be 12 hours. 12 hours is on the high. Nobody actually studies 12 hours. It could be less, but it has to be serious. It should be sincere. It's not something that it's a national pastime. Everybody takes a civil service. So I'm just going to go and take it and see how it's like. How it's like doing it. That should not be the attitude. It should be a serious effort. And for a serious effort, you need to concentrate and study.
Yes, sir. So one simple question, sir. Suppose we go for IS, for taking the IS exam, or anything like civil service, then sir, can we have tattoos in body? Or if we suppose we have tattoos in our body, then for civil service.
Again, tattoos will surely disqualify. Remove them. Tattoos are, you can be a good model, you can be a designer, but tattoos are not meant for civil service. What sort of role model will you be for the people that you work for and a servant of? If you have tattoos, this character is not worth taking seriously. You can be a Rohit Bal, you know, the designer, but you cannot be an IS officer with all the tattoos all over you. So if you have tattoos, get them removed very quickly.
A few questions from girls, please.
Good evening, sir. My name is Melissa and I'm in class 8. I just want to ask you that how to choose the optional subject for preliminary and main exam.
You asked everything. Prelims is, as I said, no optional subject is there. Prelims is simply general knowledge and maths, logical reasoning. Okay? And for main subject, there is only one optional subject. There is a long list of optional subjects. It could be history, geography, anthropology, sociology, civil engineering, mathematics, Sanskrit, Assamese, anything. It's a long, unending list. So you can pick up any subject that you fancy. That's a good question. Very not connected with the examination, but you are asking what is asked. Okay. As a subdivision officer, I think I did mention in the beginning that when you become a subdivision officer, which is your first posting, you are the subdivisional magistrate. You are responsible for, Shabnam, sub-leaders, you have to be responsible for law and order. You have to be responsible for providing relief to people during floods. You are responsible for holding elections. You are responsible for doing the census work. You are responsible for doing all kinds of developmental activities of the government. All the programs will be reviewing. Everyone will be reporting to you. So at the age of 25, if you join at the age of 23, at the age of 25, you will be a boss or a mistress of a subdivision of a size of 5 lakhs, 3 lakhs of population. So you are virtually doing everything. So when you go become a district magistrate, deputy commissioner or collector, you look after a bigger unit which has many subdivisions, right? So you, and then when you finish that, you can be head of a municipal corporation, demolishing the houses in Guwahati if you are posted here, okay? Or you can be part of, say, of the Guwahati Metropolitan Development Society agency, giving permission for building, construction, bylaws, clearing the bylaws, giving permission for construction of building. If you are in the secretariat, you only give policy directions. This is the policy of the government. After these are directions given to the field officers. What are field officers? SDMs, SDOs, ADCs, DC, these are field officers. Project director, DRDA, these are field officers. So you understand? So when you start off, you suddenly realize that you are responsible for so many things. You don't have, nobody's going to tell you, ma'am, what is to be, this is how, you shouldn't ask, what do I do? They'll all be looking at you. You have to know. And that's a problem which many of us have. When I became an SDO, I didn't know what to do. I mean, files came and I needed to sign, say, I don't have to send it like this. I realized that carries so much weight. That means releasing funds amounting to lakhs. So you have to be careful with what you sign. Nobody is going to tell you what is right, what is wrong, because you don't know anyone in the place who you can count as being trustworthy. So you have to be very careful what you say. So all this huge responsibility will hit you in your first posting itself. And this is the only service in the world where you have such responsibility at a very young age. Okay?
Good evening, sir. My name is Kate and I'm from class 11R. I just wanted to ask you that what are the benefits of becoming an IS?
Benefit. Job satisfaction is one benefit. Job satisfaction. It's not always there, to be honest with you, but it is there. Job satisfaction. Prestige, enormous prestige. You are the IS, that means you are among the very few in the country. There are only 3,000 IS officers in the country. That includes people who are promoted from the local services. Well, direct recruits would be 50%, 1,500 direct recruits in the whole of India. So it's a prestige. And today, when you compare with the army, for instance, I am at my rank equivalent to Lieutenant General, salary-wise, because I am that HAT, High Administrative Team. When I joined when I went and did a course with the army some years ago, you know who was my course mate? Dalbir Singh, Chief of Army Staff. He was my course mate. He was a brigadier. Then another course mate was Arup Raha, Air Marshal Arup Raha was the Air Chief in 2006. I was only 44, they were already 54 then. So that way, this service prepares you for leadership roles at much younger age. You have to assume responsibility, assume leadership at much younger age. Right? So we are trained for that. So there are two things. One gives you job satisfaction, and then it also gives you some kind of high, being appreciated, admired, and pleasure at being, being among the very few. I think isn't that enough?
So another 2 or 3 questions will be anticipated, and from teachers, one question is
yes, I'd like to listen to.
Just feel free to ask questions.
Madam should ask. Let me hear
Very good evening, sir. I'm Shampa Sahu. Yeah, I'm Shampa Sahu. Unfortunately, I was an IAS aspirant. I attempted twice and I cleared my mains and prelims, but I could not click my viva. So it's been a pleasure to see you, and I can understand that there were some mistakes which I did might be, in my preparation for interview. So, and my institute name was mentioned today, from where I have taken coaching, like Bajiram and Ravi Interaction, you have mentioned. I'm from JNU. Yeah, I passed my master's from JNU. So I'm very happy that we didn't get that guidance at the age of, when we are in 11, 12, only we focused. So it's been very glad.
You've been very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, glad and pleasure that you are guiding all our students in the right way.
Tell me something about yourself. You're teaching which subject?
Yes, I'm teaching geography.
And
you
did your master's in geography
from JNU.
And when did you take your civil service?
So I have taken on 2002, 2001.
Anyway, this is, it doesn't, your failure doesn't mean anything, in a sense that is that to show you in poor light.
Jishnu, I'm very happy. Yeah.
No, my success shows me as a more superior person. Nothing like it. I'm just lucky. You are unlucky. That's it.
But sir, I think my students will be one of the luckiest because so many of my students, they told they want to become a civil servant from class 12. So thank you very much.
Good evening, sir. I'm from Mr. Church. So my question is, as a principal secretary to CM, what kind of work do you do in your secretary?
I see the files that come from various departments, and I screen the files and I make short notes and tell him what is the end of it. It could be from any department, police, home, personal, PWD. So whatever comes for approval to CM, I see the files. And then I say whether it's okay or not. Otherwise, my job is to protect the chief minister, because all kind of files come. So we need to do the screening. That's one. Number two, his programs, his speeches. Okay. I think mic is on, but let me say one thing. Working here in Assam, my chief minister doesn't expect his staff to do political work. Nothing. In many states, people in my position would be doing some political work, but not in my case. Not in this state, because my chief minister is an old-fashioned man. There is a clear-cut separation of the responsibilities. One is the official side and the non-official side. I only do the official side. That files, speeches, programs. Whenever some VIP comes, and I be there and I give them notes. Direction by the chief minister, I convey. Honorable CM desires that this thing has to be done. So all those notes I write. And sometimes he wants notes to be signed by himself, so I prepare and don't give it to him, he signs. So it's very simple. I am also, I'm not simply a principal secretary to CM. I'm also in the eye of the storm. I'm also principal secretary border area development department. And more interestingly for me, I'm also principal secretary archives, a post that I have myself grabbed because I wanted to do something to our state archives. Very shortly, maybe in another, not maybe, but by 1st of September, we'll be uploading our website. You please go and see Assam State Archives. And I'm very proud of it, and I don't hesitate in boasting that this would be the best website of any archives in the world. I have seen archives, the Balochistan State Archives, the Lahore, the Punjab State, provincial website of Lahore, the Sindh website, and I've seen the Cambridge University and the Oxford University website on archives. But ours would be comparable in many ways. So we are looking forward to upload the website. And we have done great things in the last 1 year in properly systematizing the records being kept in our archives from 1826. Earlier it was chaotic. We had some order in our madness, but it was chaotic. We have got everything properly written, listed, computerized. Okay. Scanning has been done. We have a computer center. So that's one place, if I'm successful, I want to leave as a legacy, as a good legacy for research scholars who want to work on the history of this region. Because Assam is the mother state of the Northeast. Naga Hills was a part of Assam, Nagaland. Meghalaya was a part of Assam. Arunachal was a part of Assam. Mizoram was a part of Assam. So all the records are here, not in their respective headquarters. Manipur was to be administered from Assam because the governor of Assam was also administrator of Manipur. Though the Raja was there, but an ICS officer, 2 ICS officers used to go and serve in Manipur on loan. Similarly, not Tripura. Tripura was always separate from Assam, but rest of Northeast was, in a way,
controlled from Assam. So all the records are here. So you're asking me about what my job as a Principal Secretary CM is. I've told you that, and I've told you a little more what I'm doing. I'm very happy with the archival work, and I'm also done a lot of research on the border areas to know about the background and all the small things that have happened in the past. Why are some people demanding this land, that land? What is the background? By putting myself in the shoes of my neighbors to see what is the reason why people are clamoring for land from the whole state. So many things, it really is an academic work. I enjoy doing that.
Good evening, sir. I'm Priyanka, the Bureau of 11 Arts. So my question to you is, apart from the knowledge, how should we try to develop our personality, or how should we mentally prepare for in accordance with the administrative service?
You are doing what? Humanities?
Yes, sir.
What is your ambition? You want to go to Delhi University?
Yes, sir.
Try to get into a good college. Try to get into St. Stephen's or LSR, Miranda House, or JNC, some of the better colleges. If you get into a better college, better known colleges, one of the more reputed colleges, you will find by sheer osmosis, you know what osmosis? Passing on, right? You will feel that you are a more, much smarter personality. And I felt that my 5 years in St. Stephen's helped me to improve my personality. For my daughter also the similar thing happened. She did 3 years from St. Stephen's. So I think with that background, it will help her to develop a personality. It may not get her into IAS, but that's a different thing. So exams are all unpredictable. But as a personality, I think you will be much better off joining good institutions where you are exposed to the best in academics as well as backgrounds. You need to interact with people from diverse backgrounds. People who come from Mumbai, from Calcutta, from Chennai, from UP, all these places. It's not, if you stay in a small place like Guwahati, it's like a frog in the well kind of a thing. You don't meet so many people. But if you go to a bigger place, you will find that you are exposed to all cultures, and therefore you will know how to interact with them and also become more presentable as a personality. Guwahati is fine; it's a big city now, but still it's much smaller than many other than say Delhi. I would say Delhi is one place where you can really where if you stay, it will do wonders to your. Would you agree with you, ma'am? With me, ma'am? What do you say? Your JNU must have helped.
Yes, sir. It helps. Its environment helps. Sir.
Environment.
Helps.
And where do you do your graduation?
And sir, from Cotton College.
Huh?
Cotton College.
Cotton College. So from Cotton, when you went to JNU, there was a sea change.
Yeah.
Big change, isn't it? JNU and the atmosphere there is different. You get to see. So people are very crazy about IAS, isn't it? Yes. People totally focus on civil service or academics. Two things. They won't do number three, anything. And there is no number three thing. It's either IAS or academics. Usually, very few only academics. Most of them only IAS and examination. Otherwise, as a fallback arrangement, it is academics.
So, my name is Vedastaram from Civil Works. My question is, how did you prepare for a civil service exam?
How?
Did you prepare for a civil service?
I have spoken for such a long time. Anyway, I have told you only how I prepared, but it's okay. You want in a nutshell. What you want is in a nutshell. Nutshell is this. I have always read newspapers. In our time, 25 years ago, the best newspaper was the Times of India. And I have been reading Times of India definitely from 1979 properly. Times of India. Now it's a hopeless, lousy, tabloid kind of newspaper. But it used to be a very good newspaper. So Times of India was one newspaper I always read and enjoyed reading that newspaper. I used to also read extensively. My interests were not so much on, was not so much, in reading of fiction. I never developed a taste for fiction except Somerset Maugham short stories, a few novels here and there, but not really. I'm more into non-fiction, history, political autobiographies, biographies, something of that sort. Okay, so I used to read, and I read quite extensively and widely. And second thing, I used to read newspapers daily. And when the UPSC examination drew closer, I used to also listen to All India Radio in those days, and also watch the Doordarshan news. In those days, we had only Doordarshan, and I think only Doordarshan. Only Doordarshan. Yeah, we didn't have these channels. So that is how I prepared. About preparing for specific things, papers I did tell you, I used cards for writing the main examination. Prelims for me was not a problem because we didn't have CSAT. We only had main subject, which I had history. History was not a problem for me. Frankly, I mean, I may appear to be boasting, but because I knew those NCRTs and Romila Thapars, and how many, is anyone teaching history here? You are. So Romila Thapar and Satish Chandras and the like, and D.N. Jha and all pretty well, those textbooks. So history was never a problem for prelims. So that's how I prepared, reading books, newspapers, and always dreaming, but not necessarily acting on it. I dreamt of it, and I was dreaming for it for a long time. And let me share with you, with your principal Nipen, years ago, I think probably in 80 when we traveled together for the first time. I had forgotten this episode. He reminded me some years ago that we traveled together by train. That time I was obsessed with the Indian Army. I wanted to join the army because in those days, that must have been around 81 perhaps, 81 or 82. I was in my third year, and I had read John Masters. John Masters was an old Indian Army officer who wrote a number of novels and also his autobiography about his days in the Gurkha regiment. So I was mighty impressed by John Masters. So I wanted to become an infantry officer, army officer. And those days I didn't talk a lot about army. But then that was a passing fancy. And I got back to this UPSC dream once again. And after that when I flunked twice, I thought, Delhi is very far away, Missouri is too far away. I gave up the bank and okay, that's another life. But after I got into the bank, I found it mighty boring, extremely boring. Sitting in one desk with 50 other people and doing calculations with a calculator and working out the internal rate of return. And so boring. I said, it's better we get out and get into any service. But again, God has been kind, so I made it the IAS, which has been an interesting life for me so far. So that's how I can answer your question. This is how I prepared and how things worked out for me.
Thank you, sir. Really, it's a very wonderful question and session going on. So,
yeah. Okay. Now, there is at your level, I would recommend. Actually, these are not books for you at the moment. These are books that will need to reach your college days. There is a book called by Philip Mason or Woodruff called Men Who Rule India. Men Who Rule India. It's about the old ICS, how they function here, how young British officers straight from Oxford University or Cambridge University coming here and serving in distant corners of India, about 10,000 kilometers away from home, and what sort of things they did, how they managed their family, wrote books, controlled law and order and all that. So this is about the history of the ICS in 2 volumes. Then there is something called 50 Years with the British by Kripali, who served in Sindh, now in Pakistan. He was an ICS. Sindh or Punjab? Punjab. Then there is this book called Collector's Peace by S.N. Mitra, again an ICS officer who served in Assam. He retired in 50s, maybe early 60s from West Bengal. Then, if you can get these books, these are not available anymore. Gundevia wrote, this man was foreign service, joined the foreign service after independence. But before independence, he was in the ICS. And Gundevia wrote, in the districts of the Raj, area about the life they spent in the clubs and station clubs and horse riding and pig sticking, you know, billiards, golf, and controlling the natives and all that. And this is a book on by one of the more recent officers, IS officer called Bhaskar Ghosh, Shagorika Ghosh of CNIBN, formerly of CNIBN, Hapok, Bhaskar Ghosh. He is himself a Stephanian. So was Sagorika Ghosh. Sagorika was a near contemporary of mine, a couple of years junior. And Bhaskar Ghosh, Hapok, was also in St. Stephen's. And he was Secretary Information Broadcasting in Government of India. Now he's a columnist and he writes books. So this is about his life, very well written book. So these are the books will inspire you. Now you ask for what are the things will inspire you. Read these books, you'll find them very entertaining. There is one man called Subramaniam, TSR Subramaniam, was Chief Secretary UP and Cabinet Secretary India, Government of India. And he writes a book called Journeys Through Babugam and Netaland, Governance in India. Very interesting book to read. So these are some of those, and not all. I have many more, I've got some here. And so I thought maybe I'll show them to you. Maybe at some stage in your life you might be tempted to lay your hands on them and read them. And if you read them, and if you read one, maybe you will be inspired to take the IAS. Maybe my lecture may not have worked, but these chaps, the writings may take you on that track towards the Indian Administrative Service and the Missouri Academy, and then to your respective states wherever you come. Thank you.